pursuit of carbon neutrality by 2030 was a key factor behind his decision to re-enter officially. New rules for 2026 will increase the electrical performance of Formula One engines. The sport's governing body, the FIA, is mandating the use of fully sustainable systemic and synthetic fuels at the same time. That's the outlook in Formula One and Honda engines in these machines. In Europe, British billionaire Sir Richard Branson's rocket company, Virgin Orbit, has permanently ceased operation just months after a major mission failure. The company sold its assets for $36 million, just 1% of the $3.7 billion valuation ahead of its Nasdaq debut last year. In March, Virgin Orbit said it would cut 85% of its workforce after failing to secure a new investment. The California-based firm filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the US in early April. It came just weeks after the company paused operations in an apparent attempt to shore up its finances. Talking about businesses in Nigeria. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has approved the cancellation of licenses issued to 132 microfinance banks operating in Nigeria. Emefiele approved their revocation, according to a statement released by the CBN on Tuesday, as the financial regulator clamped down on microfinance banks that are not complying with the Apex Bank's regulation and requirements of their license. Giving reasons for the withdrawal of their licenses, CBN said, the cease to carry on in Nigeria, the type of businesses for which their licenses were issued for a continuous period of 6 months. CBN said, adding that the microfinance banks also failed to comply with the obligation imposed upon them by the Central Bank of Nigeria in accordance with the provisions of Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020, Act number 5. Still looking at talking points within Nigeria, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has resumed an oil drilling campaign at Wadi B located in Jere local government area of Borno State. The NNPC resumed drilling after it stopped drilling in Wadi B in 1995 because back then successes were weak and finding mates during the period were not in commercial quantity. According to NNPC's Group Chief Executive Officer yesterday, Male Kyari, he said, the company hopes to bring prosperity to the people through the elimination of energy poverty, currently threatening Africa's biggest economy. Kyari made the commitment at the presidential flag-off of the Wadi B drilling campaign by President Muhammadu Buhari in Borno State. Looking at airlines and their revenues. The foreign airlines operating in Nigeria raked in about $1.1 billion in 2022 despite foreign exchange challenges. In a conversation, the chairman of the Airlines and Passengers Joint Committee of International Air Transport Association, Bankole Bernard, stated that the $1.1 billion revenue generated from travels in Nigeria is expected to continue thriving due to high demand for traveling within the country. He expressed confidence that the figures will remain steady in the near future. And that's good news from a Nigerian point of view, and the foreign airlines are making a lot of money, also from the country, amid all the debacles regarding exchanges. Let's look at recent CBN report. The country's external reserve fell by $1.5 billion in 4 months, according to figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Latest figure on movement of the external reserves by the CBN revealed that the figure, which stood at $36.73 billion as of the end of February 20th, fell to $36.68 billion at the end of February 27th. It fell from $35.5 billion to $35.25 billion and $35.2 billion at the end of March, April, and May, respectively. At the March Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja, the Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, while noting the marginal decline in the level of gross external reserves, said it was reflecting the downtrend in crude oil prices as global uncertainties persist. It would be a good time to move to global economy to look at the standings all around the world. Economic data is expected today, beginning with economic calendar. By 12:30 p.m. today, Nigeria's GDP growth rate data would be out quarter on quarter, year on year. Looking at the calendar, on 12 a.m. in the morning, Reuters Tankan Index came out for May at 6 index level. Previous standing was at a -3 for Japan. But let's look at the one highlighted with red. It's inflation rate year on year in Great Britain. Inflation rates for April. It came out at 8.7%, revised better from 10.1% it stood previously, indicating positivity in the economy of Great Britain, amid the IMF saying that Great Britain would not go into recession any longer. Let's look at further identities in the economic markets and what the calendar is saying this morning. By 9 a.m. in the morning, Info Business Climate for May in Germany came out at 91.7 point level, previous standing 93.4. It revised to a better standing, talking about the business climate and the confidence level in Germany. Consensus standing was at 93 and focus 93.2. showing slight weakness in the business climate in Germany. Talking about inflation, let's go into the details of UK inflation as it slows less than forecast. The inflation rate in the UK fell to 8.7% in April, the lowest since March 2022, due to a sharp slowdown in electricity and gas prices. Still, it exceeded market expectations of 8.2% and remained well above the Bank of England's target of 2%. The core rate, which excludes food and energy, jumped to 6.8%, the highest since 1992 and above forecast of 6.2%. Let's look at the charts indicating UK's inflation rates. The charts. According to the National Bureau of Statistics data in the UK, as of July 2022, inflation stood at 10.1%. It slowed down a bit to 10.1% and 9.9% before jumping upward to a peak point of 11.1% in October, indicating increase in the prices of commodities as well as weakness in the British pound. But inflation began to slow down bit by bit, dropping to 10.1% again in January this year, and it's been along that 10-point-something percent point before dropping to 8.7% in April 2023, indicating improvement in the UK economy. Let's come to Africa. South Africa's annual inflation rate fell to an 11-month low of 6.8% in April 2023, down from 7.1% in the previous month and below market forecast of 7%, but still above the upper limit of the SAP's target range of 3.3% to 6%. The moderation in inflation was mainly due to softer rises in prices of transportation in March, of which fuel was at 5% against 8.1%, food and non-alcoholic beverages 13.9% against 14%, restaurants and hotels 5.1% against 6.4%, and household contents and services 6.5% against 6.9%. The annual core inflation, which excludes prices of food, non-alcoholic beverages, fuel and energy rose to an over 6-year high of 5.3% in April, up from 5.2% in the prior month, in line with market forecast. On a monthly basis, consumer prices were up by 0.4% in April, slowing from a 1% rise in the prior month and slightly below market estimates of a 0.5% increase. Let's have a clear picture of inflation in South Africa from the charts indicating South Africa's inflation rate. Inflation, which reflects increase in the cost of commodities as well as a weakness in the currency of the country, also indicates the struggles in the standard of living of the people. In South Africa, inflation went to 7.8% in July 2022, before dropping slightly to 7.5% and afterwards 7.6% in October 2022. Inflation further went downward to 6.9% in January 2023 this year. Amid all the struggles in terms of power shortages in South Africa, it went back up to 7.1% before slowing down to 6.8% in April 2023, indicating improvements in South Africa's economy. It would make sense to look at the commodities market next. What the identities are from the different markets, we'll look at the metal market and the energy market, but we begin with market commentary from Bob Isino. As copper futures sink to their lowest level since November 2022, amid a strengthening of the US dollar and disappointing producers' managers index data. Let's find out more from Bob Isino.
Lows in the metals quadrant, taking a look at the July copper futures contract, which hit new lows on the low today. 3 spot 62.20 was down 1.71%. That's the lowest price level this morning on the lows since November 29th of last year. So a significant dry spell for copper to have come off like that. It then bounced, but not enough to get into positive territory. On the highs, 3 spot 70.50. That was up a little bit more than 0.5%. We still finished the day down about 1.1% below 370, 364.40 or so was the approximate settlement. Now we got some manufacturing data today. S&P Global Manufacturing PMIs. It was really a mix of PMIs. We got composite, we got services, we got manufacturing for most of the economies that I'm going to mention, but manufacturing PMIs were poor this morning across 4 global economies. Again, services and composite PMIs were okay, but especially in the US, the service and composite was okay. But the manufacturing PMIs, not good at all. Germany at 42.9, the Eurozone at 44.6, the UK at 46.9, and the US at 48.5, all in contraction territory.
Thank you, Bob Isino, for the perspective. Let's get to the market, the metal market, to see the identities of the market this morning, what the prices are for gold, silver, and the rest, amid the struggles in the morning market. Gold price is at $1,976 per ounce, gaining just slightly in the morning market. 0.6 market is moving fast, but the volatility level is low. A 0.03% appreciation. For silver, slightly downward this morning, copper slightly downward, but steel has dropped a huge number, 118 points drop for steel, a negative 3.28% decline. 3,479 Chinese yuan per ton is the price of steel. To the energy markets, oil climbs higher on Saudi warnings. WTI crude futures jumped towards $74 per barrel today, rising for the 3rd straight session to the highest level in 3 weeks, as a warning from the Saudi energy minister stoked fear of further OPEC plus production cuts. Saudi Arabia's Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman told speculators to watch out, and what analysis and analysts took as a signal that OPEC plus could consider further output cuts at a meeting on June 4th. Meanwhile, industry data showed that U.S. crude inventories declined by about 6.8 million barrels last week, defying forecast for a 0.525 million increase. Gasoline inventories also dropped by about 6.4 million, while distillate inventories fell by about 1.8 million. Let's move to the market and see what the indices are in the morning market regarding the energies, price of crude oil, and afterwards we'll look at agricultural market. Crude oil price, the US crude, which is the West Texas Intermediary oil, is selling, or rather buying, not selling this morning. It's buying at $74 per barrel, a 1.56 points gain, a 2.14% appreciation. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, is $78 per barrel, gaining 1.445 points, a 1.88% appreciation. Natural gas a little here, a little there, not much. Gasoline, no significant difference in the market. Heating oil, which are derivatives of crude oil, not really much in the morning market. Let's look at the agricultural market then, where the price of soybeans, wheat, and the rest are. It's shown some declines, but palm oil is gaining 30 points this morning, a 0.89% appreciation, not much. But current price for palm oil is 3,408 Malaysian ringgit per ton. Soybeans downward by 1 point, wheat downward by 3.43 points. And that's the story around the commodities and the market. It would make sense to look at the foreign exchange market, what the identities are for some of the currency pairs, beginning with market commentary from Dan Deming. The Australian dollar futures is at near the 2023 lows as rising interest rates lift the US dollar. Dan Deming has more. Let's hear from Dan Deming.
In today's FX markets, let's take a look at the Australian dollar as it's experiencing some selling pressure today. Australian dollar down about 0.5% on the session, and today's price action has the futures market nearing the lowest levels of the year, holding just above there right now at 0.6624. And when you look at some of the driving factors, I think there's a couple catalysts to point to today. Number one, the themes coming out of the region where Australia is located. You're seeing China continue to show signs of economic moderation and or slowing. And that has impacted the Australian dollar as well as the New Zealand dollar. And I think that's one of the driving factors to couple that with the interest rate environment here in the U.S., helping to support the U.S. dollar. We're seeing rates moving higher. Fed officials continuing to reiterate the potential for more rate hikes if they deem it necessary. And the markets are adjusting for that possibility now. And that appears to be benefiting the dollar over the last few weeks and therefore putting pressure on most of major FX markets, but particularly when you look at the dynamic with the Australian dollar. As
talking about the drivers of the market from Dan Deming and opportunities in the market after a 0.5 drop. Let's go to the market and see what the indices are this morning for the euro against the US dollar and Naira's perspective in the market. The morning market has seen hugely decline for the currency pairs, for the euro against the US dollar. No significant difference in the market after dropping from the 1.08 point mark. For the pounds against the US dollar, it's a similar struggle, dropping away from the 1.24 point mark from yesterday, is at 1.23 point mark this morning. The Aussie also struggling a bit against the US dollar. Let's look at the confirmation of this regarding Naira, how the markets are turning out against the Naira. Naira against the US dollar and Naira against the pound. Let's look at the euro against the Naira, the US dollar against the Naira. 460 Naira equaling 1 US dollar. And for the Naira against the euro against the Naira, 496 Naira equaling 1 euro. Naira has gained slightly from yesterday's point of view, 1.59 points over the euro. A negative 0.32% decline for the euro against the Naira. For the pounds against the Naira, after a humongous gain in the past 2 days, the pound is dropping in value against the Naira at a negative 2.26 points, a 0.39% decline. Let's move to the black market then to see what the indices are in the black market. The black market would give a different persuasion and technique to what could happen. But first, let's look at the digital currency. Bitcoin price have shown a huge decline this morning, 439 point drop this morning, a negative 1.6% decline. Current price for Bitcoin, 26,778 US dollar equaling 1 Bitcoin. Ether also on the decline by 36 points, 1,818 US dollar equaling 1 Ether. For Binance, is dropping by 5.8 points. Cardano, a slight drop this morning. Solana, same story. And Ripples, a slight decline, indicating the struggle in the cryptocurrency market. Quickly, let's look at the stock market and the indices beginning from global stocks and talking about Asian stocks. Asian stocks track Wall Street lower. Asian equities fell today, tracking losses on Wall Street overnight as lingering uncertainty over the debt ceiling negotiations in the US continued to weigh on sentiments. The Hang Seng led the retreat amid sharp losses in Chinese technology stock such as Alibaba, Baidu, and JD.com. The S&P and ASX 200, Nikkei 225, and Shanghai Composite also declined. Let's quickly look at the Asian stocks and the inclination that's happening there. The Asian stock market this morning. The Asian stock market this morning has shown a drop in the market, huge drop in the market as we've talked about. You can see JP225, the Japanese stock, dropping 275 points, Shanghai dropping by 41 points, CSI, Chinese stock 300, dropping 54 points, Shanghai 50 also dropping 40 points. It's been a huge decline for the Asian market. Let's look at the African stock market then. The African stock market has been that of mixed fortune. The Nigerian All Share dropped 26 points this morning, 52,595 index level. The rest has been a little here, a little there, mixed fortune. And we draw the curtain to today's Business 360. My name is Blyden Okem. Thank you for watching.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Relationships, organizations thrive, and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories, and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian, from issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria.
health, lifestyle, and so much more.